So, hey, welcome back to Accelerated Real Estate Investor with Josh Cantwell. I have a special treat for you today. Today, I am interviewing Joe Bramante. Joe is the CEO of Triarch Real Estate Partners. And the best part about Joe's day is showing investors how to create more time to enjoy life by building passive income streams so they can fund their unpaid vacations and accelerate their retirement. Joe's primary metric that he runs his business by and he measures is his ability to help other people achieve early retirement. Joe is a former executive at ExxonMobil, and now his multifamily investment group has a stated goal of acquiring over 20,000 units of multifamily apartments over the next 10 years. In this interview with Joe Bramante, you're also going to hear on how Joe went from completely botching his first deal, where he got fired from his job at ExxonMobil, where he came home from his place of work. He was actually working in Papua New Guinea, to buying his first real estate property, losing money on it, discovering it had asbestos, discovering he was fraudulently sold the wrong type of insurance, and how Joe has been able to take that deal, and now he's working on his 13th real estate multifamily syndication. So in this episode, you're also going to learn, number one, how Joe took his very first deal, which was an absolute loser, and is now converting that space into a 17-story high-rise apartment building. Number two, you're going to hear the importance of Joe's broker network to find deals. Number three, you're going to see how Joe did his first deal with no money down. Number four, you're going to hear the difference between the syndication model and the family office model, and how Joe went from doing deals with his own money to syndicating deals so he could do deals with none of his own money, to now moving into relationships with family offices that fund all of his down payment and all of his equity. And finally, number five, you're going to hear the importance of what Joe calls Traction EOS, the Traction Entrepreneur Operating System that was started and founded by the author of the book Traction. So I hope you enjoy this interview on the Accelerated Real Estate Investor Podcast with Joseph Bramante.
Welcome to the Accelerated Real Estate Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Real Estate Investor Podcast.
So, hey, Joe, listen, so excited to have you on Accelerated Investor. I know we were getting kind of prepared for this. We talked a little bit about the Houston market. I know you're in Houston. We just bought a portfolio in Houston, so I'm excited about that. So welcome to the show. And I'm curious to see kind of what you're working on right now in your own business that you're most excited about. What kind of gets you up and gets you going in the morning?
Yeah. So first, thanks for having me on the show. It's good to, as I was mentioning earlier, it's been a while since I've done a podcast, been super busy. End of the year crunch. We just closed the deal as well in Houston. And it was a small deal. It's only 78 units, but it was the first deal that we purposefully bought with the intention of tearing it down to redevelop. So we're kind of what gets me excited in the morning is, we're transitioning more and more into new development. And as we kind of get more and more in that direction, just deals start coming to you. And it's, it's just a different mix, different feeling for, putting deals together on the development side. Still excited about my acquisition business. We're still staying busy, but it's super tough right now to find good deals, and the pricing in the markets. It's a good time to be a seller. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you bet. So walk me through, let's peel back the onion a little bit on that deal. What did you see in the existing property that you liked about tearing it down? And what did you not like about the property that you decided it was better tearing it down than keeping it as is?
Well, the density was super low. It was only 78 units, and it sat on 5 acres of land.
Oh yeah.
It was brought to us because we're known for doing large value adds. We've done 3 value adds that are over 30,000 a door. So we've got quite a bit of experience doing renovations. We've got a 37,000 per door renovation across 220 units going on literally across the street from that property. So we were very familiar with what's possible in that market. It's in Garden Oaks. And so the broker came to us first and they said, hey, we know you own the property next door. We know that you want to do value add. And they thought that needed a value add. And we agreed that it did need a value add, except this value add was to tear it down and build it anew. Because, when we looked at the price per square foot that we're buying on the total land basis, we were at like $30 a foot. And so that's prime kind of development territory. The risk you run on doing renovations is if you increase your cost basis too much. If we would have gone the other route, which would have been our natural tendency to just do a big renovation, maybe spend, I don't know, 15, 20,000 per door renovating this property to the extreme, then our basis would have been so much more expensive and we would have never been able to tear it down. And so it's just, that was kind of the decision for us was, okay, do we go this route and we do this big renovation, or do we do this other route, which is don't touch it, keep the cost basis as low as possible while we develop our plans to tear it down and go vertical with it. So we went the latter route. We did a quick analysis. We figured out that we can put about 350 to 400 units on top of that site by working with different architects, probably going to go with a wrap design, 4 or 5 floors. But I only knew about that because we've been transitioning more and more into new development. Started back in 2016, and it's definitely a challenging industry. It's one of those that there is no kind of step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of career path or kind of guide for developing a property.
Right.
It's an iterative process, and that's what makes it really challenging.
Yeah, there's no playbook or guidelines really for new development. It's kind of got a clean slate, start with and do almost whatever you like. Got to make the economics work though, right? I love the fact that when I read your bio and we were kind of getting ready for this, that you have a stated goal of owning 20,000 units over the next 10 years. I love the fact that you put that in writing. So I just want to acknowledge you for that and say that most people don't do that because I think they're afraid to put it out to the world. What do you think it'll take to get to 20,000 units over the next 10 years? What do you think some of the critical components are? Really
great people. That's what it's going to take. The equity is there. It's not an issue about equity. It's just getting really great people behind you. We've got COVID's finally kind of behind us. Everybody's getting back into the office. We've got interns starting next week, and the rest of our team's all coming back. And so we're going to be, really putting into second gear to go after this goal. But yeah, it's all about the people. You can, and also systematizing as much as you can. With us, we've gotten our modeling down to where it's a rigid model. It's got every input that we feel it needs to have, and we get really consistent results with it, which is one of the big challenges. You got to get yourself to a point where you can consistently get results with your models and your underwriting, and there's as little ambiguity and as little kind of room for subjective analysis on your deals. It needs to be as kind of cut and dry as you can get it. And we've gotten ourselves to that point. And so now we feel like we've got the quote unquote software and we've got the systems in place. And now it's just a matter of, filling out the roster and finding the good deals and just executing.
Yeah, I love the fact that you said there's all those pieces, right, that you got to get right. But the first thing you said was people. Help me understand, how do you select and evaluate the people that you work with? A lot of people have maybe a silver bullet, some sort of test that they give or some questions they ask in an interview. How do you know when you're sitting with somebody that it's the right person for the job? It could be property manager. It could be somebody on the CapEx team, somebody in acquisitions. Maybe it's an underwriter, maybe somebody that's helping raise equity. There's a lot of different seats, as we all know, on the commercial bus. But getting the right people is so critical. I'm so happy that that was your answer because I'm in lockstep with you. Are there any hacks or silver bullets that you use to pick and select the right people?
Persistence. I think I'm looking for somebody who's going to be persistent in their pursuit of the job. This is, as you know, you need to have a lot of patience in this industry. It's weird, right? Sometimes things happen very, very slow, and other times they happen very, very fast.
And they seem to all happen at once.
Exactly. And so a lot of times, especially, what I find with this kind of newer generations, they just don't have that persistence and that patience. And they'll take that first no, or they'll take that first kind of roadblock you put in their way along that application process, and they'll just kind of go off and they'll get distracted. They'll do something else. And so for me, if I see that persistence, and also if I see just a genuine want and desire to work for our company, for Triarch, and just go on that journey with us, I mean, you really can't ask for anything more than that, than somebody who's, who wants to be part of that family you're creating and go on this journey, and really what that's going to ultimately do is going to help build your culture, right? Because everybody is rooting for the same team here, versus having a company with a bunch of individuals, and you might be like the most talented whatever at some other position, but if they're not necessarily for Team Triarch, then maybe you don't need to be on this bus.
Yeah. Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. There's a book that I've been reading. I'm almost done with it. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Highly recommend it. And The Infinite Game talks about companies that are built for infinity. They're built for the long term, and companies that build for that versus building for short-term returns or short-term decisions to hit, a stock price goal if it's a publicly traded company. And one of the things you mentioned, the culture, Triarch, one of the things they talk about in the book is what they call the just cause. So highly recommend, if you haven't read it, Joe, take a look at it. But a lot of that is resonating with me right now as I do these podcasts and record and meet new people. This idea of the just cause is that it's kind of the reason for the business being and doing what it does. The mission, but really the reason, the long-term infinite reason why we're here. And I've been thinking in my own business, like, well, what is our just cause? What's our bigger reason other than being rich, other than having 10,000 units or 20,000 units, having an amazing culture? So if you were to think about your cause, like your just cause, your bigger reasons, what do you think that would be for you and for your company?
So for us, we've got our 5 main core values. We've got drive. You've got to be driven to do this, and commitment, because it can be a grueling journey that we're going on. Obviously, it's going to take us 10 years to get to our first goal, and then we've got goals after that. And then the other drives then we got persistence, because we want people to constantly be persistent, because you're going to get told no a lot more than you're going to get told in this industry, and you're going to deal with a lot of deals that unfortunately don't always work out. Passion is really kind of a big thing for us, especially when we're hiring. If people are passionate about the company and the position, that really goes a long way. And then respect. Respect is a big one for us, because we're dealing with people across, especially in this industry, across all facets of the wealth income or wealth distribution, from our residents, who some are going to be in that workforce housing or lower, that kind of lower median income, to our investors who are at that upper echelon, top 1%, 0.5% of the country. So you've got to be able to conduct yourself in a way that you can appear well in front of all of them, and have respect for everybody involved. So those are kind of the values that we look for. Ultimately, as a company, we're looking to be just the preeminent operator and developer in Houston for the working class. This is our home. This is where we want to be, and this is the profile that we want to go after.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. Joe, let's back up a little bit to your start in this business. I was reading through your bio. I was so excited to know that you're in Houston, that we've done a few deals in Houston. But then as I was reading through your bio, getting ready for this, your story about working for ExxonMobil, getting transferred from Houston to Papua New Guinea, halfway around the world, and then learning about real estate and having some time learning that your coworkers learned about real estate, coming back. Things didn't exactly get off on the perfect foot for you when you got back. Finding that the insurance that you bought was a scam, that the property that you had bought had asbestos. Tell our listeners a little bit more about your start in real estate and how you overcame some of those initial challenges.
The biggest mistake I made when I started down the real estate is the same mistake that I see a lot of people making these days. And that is just the perception of simplicity in the industry. People just think, I'll just do these formulas. I'm going to use this model that I bought off the internet or so-and-so gave me, and we're just going to underwrite these deals. And it's just, everything's going to work out magically and perfect. And I was the same. I self-taught myself. I read about half a dozen books that I got on Amazon, and the formulas, I'm an engineer by trade. So the formulas were pretty simple, and applied those formulas, and and I thought I was being fancy and was applying some other Exxon stuff that I learned. And then plus just had that natural ego because, my background was, I was just, I was kind of used to winning. I topped my class in high school, topped my class in college, got the job at Exxon. They were the largest company in the world at the time. And so just all those wins. And so obviously I had a bit of an ego, but that ego got checked really quickly because, as you mentioned, within the first 6 months of ownership on my first deal, had asbestos. We were 4 units into a renovation. We found out we had asbestos, so we couldn't touch those units. Had to send everybody home. The insurance was a fraud. The broker who sold it to us bought it from a fraudulent company. And then on top of that, I lost my job. So I had this real big, high-paying job, and then I didn't. And so it was just one of those things. And then I was negative cash flowing on that property. So it's a really bad time. Plus you deal with the embarrassment of getting let go. I didn't tell my parents for like 2 years. And I remember I told my mom I quit, of course, because that's what everybody who gets fired tells their parents. And I remember she just said, well, can't you just go back to them and tell them you changed your mind that you want to work for them? And I was like, no, Mom, I don't think I can.
Yeah. I fell in love with real estate and I quit. It was like, well, not exactly. I like it. Yeah. How'd you keep it from that for 2 years? Well, you told them you quit. So you sort of lied to them for 2 years. How did you eventually break it to them that you actually got let go?
Eventually, really, it was after the success of my first property. Then I said, hey, Mom, I didn't really, just so you know, I actually got let go. And she's like, oh, we suspected that. I was like, yeah, it sucked. But anyway, so I'd made those mistakes, right? I just assumed that it was super simple and went out and bought these deals and just got really lucky because I bought it at a 14 cap. And luckily, as we know what happened because of history, that cap rates went down to now they're at like 5.5, 6. So really, if I would have just held that property and did nothing to it, I would have been a huge success. But then for us to take that property and we did a huge renovation to it, a 30,000 per door renovation on my first deal, had no business doing that, to be honest. And all the mentors I had at the time were telling me, don't do it, to sell the property, take a loss. But I'm just stubborn like that. I didn't want to lose money because it was my money. I was 50-50. Me and another guy, it was the most money. It was my first 100K I'd ever made. And I had it in my account for like a few weeks. And then I just dumped it into that property right away. And I'll never forget that feeling. It was a very sickening feeling. That first big investment you make, you're immediately questioning every decision and you're triple checking all your underwriting.
Right.
And so anyway, that was the first deal. And we turned the whole thing around, did this big renovation. We doubled the rents, got a 207% return on the refinance, still own it today. And now the big thing is that we're looking at redeveloping the whole site into a 17-story high rise. So we're excited about that, which has been kind of my big dream from the beginning since I was a kid. is to go into high-rise development. I've always loved buildings, and I was originally supposed to be an architect and realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I switched to civil engineering. And then after interning for a few summers at consulting firms, I realized, man, I really didn't see much upward mobility. I didn't want to be behind a desk, just like cranking out AutoCAD all day. And then Exxon came to town, and fortunately I was able to get a job with them. And so I kind of did a big kind of U-turn, or, fork in the road, and went to oil and gas because it was a pretty substantial difference in salary they're going to pay me. And now I'm kind of come back full circle right now. Then I went into buying that first property, and now we're going into development and working with architects and engineers. And so it's really exciting. And as a civil engineer myself, I'll tell you, I'm around the table with the other engineers, and they look at me like I'm still supposed to remember all this civil engineering stuff that I took 10 years ago in college.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that this deal could be a 17-story high rise when it was originally like what looked like to be a big like strikeout, like swing and miss.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's the launching pad for this potentially new 17-story high rise. And I think if we really just let time pass in a lot of the deals that we've done, the good, the bad, and the ugly, every deal has a reason, has a purpose. They all have a benefit if you look for it. If you look at the negativity, you look at the things you did wrong, look at the losses that you've had, of course, you're going to find losses. You're going to find negativity. If you find like, what's the reason for this, and be patient, I think deals reveal themselves in weird ways over time. And you're like, well, man, I wish I would have never done that deal. And all of a sudden, 5 years later, or in your case, the 17-story high rise, it's like, this is going to be the launching pad for the biggest goof up of my life, is going to be one of my biggest wins. I think that's fantastic. So with that in mind, Joe, what would be, now that you've had success as a developer, you've had success buying multifamily, you've done massive unit turns, you've done residential, you've made the pivot into commercial, what is some advice that you think you would pass back to your younger former self or our listeners and our audience that you think you'd redo, things that you learned along the way?
I'll try and put it in terms of today's, what I see going on today. And first, I'll just say, don't follow the crowd necessarily. I think there's a lot of people that are just jumping on the bandwagon, and they're hearing all these great stories. They hear my story and they think, oh, wow, I can do that. I bought it 10 years ago at a 14 cap. And so people forget about the context of when these great wins are happening and things. And this industry is very time dependent, because there's been fortunes made and fortunes lost depending on when things were done. And I also don't necessarily follow the crowd, but do your own research and do your own testing. It's like underwriting is a big thing. I'm real passionate about underwriting and spent the last 10 years really kind of perfecting our own underwriting. And it's just one of those things that I've just been disappointed with what I see out there. And people are so quick to run towards the simple, basically back of the paper napkin calculations. And it's like, look, guys, you used to be able to do that 10 years ago and it would work. But nowadays, with how competitive things are, you just got to go to the, really surgical with your underwriting. Don't do this alone. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people are doing it, they're partnering well. So I think that's great. I do see a lot of people partnering. I think there's, caveats to that, right? So don't do it alone, but also don't have 10 partners on a deal. I think there's a balance, right, on how you're doing your deals, because if you have too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, then you want to get some experience. But if the experience is so diluted between 10 people, it's kind of hard. Right. But do partner with people who are more experienced than you. One of the best things I did was that I partnered with my greatest mentor, Carrie and Deborah. They've been doing this for 30 years, and they've really kind of helped steer us away from some bad deals that we would have bought otherwise. And so I just have this, mentor, and now I'm getting much more better. Been doing this for 10 years, but still 30 years experience is something that you'll never really catch up with until you've done it for 30 years. Say don't pretend to be something you're not. This is something I see a lot is people are out there talking about things that they really don't know, or they're just kind of parroting something that they heard on a podcast somewhere. And if you, it just, the risk on this industry is that you're dealing with people's money. And I've been, I started from, my first deal when I was taking $10,000 checks. And I've had some deals that, we projected some crazy IRRs, like 30 and 40% IRRs. I've actually gotten to 30 on my first deal, but the other ones didn't always pan out. I mean, one of them was like a 36 and we actually got a 21. But still very good, but you said 36, right? And so everybody's like, you said 36 and you hit 21. And so there's just that learning and that growth you need. I didn't know, that was my third deal that I did. So now we're on acquisition 13. And so you've got a lot of experience. And so I get there's a fake it till you make it part, but also just bear in mind it's people's money and you should definitely be as judicious as you can. And do listen to others who with more experience. There's a lot of, arrogance, so to speak, in the industry. There's people who've got maybe large followings, whatever. And they, I've reached out to a few operators in the past. I'm like, hey, I heard you're buying this deal. You might want to look at this, this, and this. We saw it and was just completely stone cold. And it didn't, they ended up not buying it. I guess maybe they figured out I was correct, but still I was a little put off. I was like, hey man, like if somebody approached me who's been doing this for, 5 or 10 more years, more than I've been doing it, and they generally had like a valid point, I would say, oh yeah, sure. I'll check it out. So I just be humble and kind of respectful for people out there is kind of what I would advise.
Love it. Love it. My newest and most powerful real estate investing book, The Flip System, is now available. And for a limited time, you can grab your free copy at getflipsystem.com/podcast. Using the same proven principles, secrets, and investing strategies I'm sharing in this book, I've been able to personally close over 750 highly profitable real estate deals over the last 15 years, make over 400 private lender loans, raise over $30 million of private money, and acquire over 2,000 units of apartments. Get my newest book now for free for a limited time at getflipsystem.com/podcast. That's getflipsystem.com/podcast. So Joe, we'll finish with what we call the Fast Five. This is a relatively new part of the podcast. 5 quick questions. Give me super fast answers in about 5 to 15 seconds. So you ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1, favorite way to find deals?
Favorite way to find deals, just through our network of brokers. Rarely do you go direct to buyer. So it's just having those great relationships. And then I'm actually going to a happy hour with a developer right now. And we're going to be doing some deal tradings. Like, hey, I want to buy your deal you just built in exchange. Let's build this deal together. So it's, taking that deal negotiation to that second and third level.
Nice. You're starting happy hour early. Good for you.
4 o'clock. We got a few hours.
Yeah, got a few hours. Next question. Favorite way to find money, limited partners, and investors?
I enjoy, going mostly direct to the family office. We do syndication. We're kind of transitioning out of syndication and more direct to the family office. It's a more quick conversation. You can do a deal within an hour with somebody. You'll say, hey, this is my deal. You want to do it? Yes or no? You go over the details. And if it's yes, then you can have the whole deal funded right there.
Love it. Favorite book and why?
Traction by Gino Wickman. It's the EOS operating system. That's how we run our company. It's been, transformative for us. We put it in place. We initially self-implemented the book back in 2016, then got professional implementation in 2018. And I just can't say enough good things about it.
Love it. You mentioned your mentor. I was going to ask the next question, your favorite mentor. So just mention them again, but why? Why have they been so impactful to you?
So Carrie, she's, obviously my partner. We work day in and day out, but we've got, we've been through many battles together. By battles, I mean acquisitions, and also just the natural friction in a company with our own ideas and how we're going to head things, which direction we're going to go into. But just, when you go through these battles, and I was like that first deal, as I told you, I was destined to lose my investment. It was just going in a very bad direction. And she was one of the only people that was on the sideline that was like, not only that was just like, yes, we can do it. Here's a great plan. Like she was very instrumental in putting the initial plan together and believing in that it's possible. And then obviously executing it. And what she did on that first deal and on all of our deals, she's just phenomenal. And I'm always learning from her.
Fantastic. Final question. What's and where's your happy place?
My happy place would be about 30 meters underwater somewhere, probably in Papua New Guinea, scuba diving. It's, I just love it. It's, if you're not a diver, I'd recommend you just go do an intro to diving somewhere. And besides being cool because you're underwater and you're floating and it's air conditioned, right? And you're not sweating. But there's also the whole like meditation thing. People don't realize it, but like when you're actually like kind of counting your breaths and listening to your own breathing, and your heart rate you can hear your heart and a lot louder underwater than you could, in the air. So it's just got a really great meditative kind of vibe to it. Plus you're in a really cool environment floating around. I mean, it's great. It's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, that's fantastic stuff. Joe, listen, our audience, I'm sure, is going to love this interview. Thanks so much for being on. If any of our audience wants to connect with you, invest with you, partner with you, just learn more about you, where can they find more information?
Yeah, just go check us out on our website, triarcrep.com, triarcrep.com. Also, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so you can reach out there. And we're also going to be launching a podcast here soon called the Engineering Passive Income Podcast, where we kind of take a deep dive into the underwriting side of and kind of engineer passive income and as a passive investor, and kind of ways you can, not only just multifamily, we're going to be talking about all kinds of different investment avenues.
Fantastic stuff, Joe. Listen, thanks so much for joining me today on Accelerated Real Estate Investor.
Thanks.
So, hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Joe. If you did, go leave us a 5-star rating inside of Apple iTunes. And don't forget to subscribe to both iTunes and to YouTube so you never miss another episode of Accelerated Real Estate Investor. If you're a passive investor looking for investment opportunities and would like to take a look at our deal flow, go register at freelandventures.com/passive. And if you are a real estate investor looking to take your multifamily and apartment investments to the next level, go apply for coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com. Thank you so much for listening to yet another episode of Accelerated Real Estate Investor. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time. Take care. Hey, Josh here. And do you want to win a free Accelerated Investor t-shirt? All you have to do is give Accelerated Investor, our podcast, Accelerated Investor, a rating and a review on iTunes. Okay? Do that now. Then send us a screenshot on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. What we're going to do then is every week we're going to pick our favorite rating and review, and we're going to send that person a free t-shirt and maybe, again, some other cool, fun stuff as well from Accelerated Investors. So, again, don't forget to take a screenshot. Leave a rating, review, take a screenshot, send it to us so we know exactly who you are. And then once a week, every week on the podcast, we will announce a new winner. Don't forget to take a screenshot and send it to us so we know exactly who you are. We'll announce a new winner every week.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Real Estate Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build our community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at joshcantwellcoaching.com.